The problem is that the issue of the Holy Spirit, historically speaking, again, just read your history books. By the way, don't believe anything we're saying tonight. Check it out for yourselves. But if you look at the history of the councils and all those debates I mentioned earlier, hundreds of councils, mostly focusing on the so-called Christological issue. In other words, the nature of Father and Son. How is the Son related to the Father? Does he proceed from the Father? There was a big question about natures. Is the Son of the same nature? Is it just a lot? I mean, these are all philosophical, very tedious matters that the councils dealt with. This is from a book called Search for the Christian Doctrine of God. So it says, when we examine the creeds and confessions of faith, which were so plentifully produced between the years 325, so the author here starts from the Council of Nicaea, and 360, we gained the overwhelming impression that no school of thought during that period was particularly interested in the Holy Spirit. No school of thought during this period was interested. So this was a long time in getting formulated, getting introduced, the personality of the Holy Spirit in Christian history. So that's just a matter of historical fact. It's just a record. Some Christians thought that the Holy Spirit was just some impersonal energy. We're not sure if it was an actual personality. There were all kinds of debates about it. That's why if you read the so-called Nicene Creed, it sort of throws in the Holy Spirit at the end as and we believe in the Holy Spirit, by the way. You do not have any Trinitarian council, any Trinitarian official creed. That's the first thing you have to notice. What is the Holy Spirit, or who is the Holy Spirit? The easiest way for me to explain the Holy Spirit by showing you what Paul himself says about the Holy Spirit. In 1 Corinthians chapter 2, towards the end of this chapter, Paul here is talking about the wisdom of God revealed by his Spirit, or the Spirit. And he says how none of the rulers of this present evil age understand. If they do understand, they would understand that we killed the Son of God. Then he brings in an Old Testament text about no eye has seen, ear has heard. These are things God has revealed to us by his Spirit. The Spirit searches all things, even the deep things of God. For who knows a person's thoughts? This is what's known as Hebrew parallelism. A person's thoughts are like the Spirit. You see there? So the Spirit searches all things like your thoughts, he says. And then no one knows your thoughts except your own spirit. In the same way, no one knows the thoughts of God except the Spirit of God. So he's equating the thoughts of God with his Spirit. What we have received is not the spirit of the world. He introduces another concept here, that the world has a spirit of its own, but the Spirit that is from God, so that we may understand what God has freely given us. What I take away from this is that the Spirit is equated with your thoughts. So the concept of Spirit in this verse involves a person. The Spirit of God pertains to God. Although it's not a separate person, it belongs to a person. You know what I mean? Because some Unitarians, like the Jehovah's Witness, I think their understanding of spirit is simply as an impersonal force or energy.
Well, there are a lot of biblical Unitarians that I've heard growing up. That's how they explained it too. All they said is the power of God, like electricity.
It could be in some context. Look, today we can make this example. I can say to you, so you're in Minnesota, I'm in Georgia, different states, very far away. I can say to Tracy, my spirit or our spirit will be with you this Sunday when you congregate. Okay, is that just an energy, impersonal power, whatever? No, I'm talking about myself, and it's an extension of myself. So here you have a couple of interesting aspects of the Spirit. Again, the thoughts of God, and you also throw in there the wisdom of God. So the Spirit of God is God himself that is understood through his thoughts, which means his will, his intentions, his plans, and his wisdom, which all are pretty much synonymous things. So that's how the Spirit should be understood, not as a separate, distinct person. In the New Testament, the Spirit is primarily the person or the individual of the Father, who is always God in the New Testament. Yes.